Welcome to Freshly Recapped. Today, I'm going to recap the movie, Broad Peak, a movie about a mountaineer, who is cheated of climbing Broad Peak, a summit next to K2, the second highest mountain in the western Himalayas, when his team tries to save his life, by lying to him. 24 years later, he comes back and achieves his dream. Enjoy the video and watch out for the spoilers ahead. The movie opens with the shot of Maciej Berbeka, a Polish climber struggling on his way to the summit of Broad Peak in 1988, as an icy blizzard blows on his face and all around him. His team radios in and asks him for his location. But we see him with his lips frozen and he is unable to speak. We cut to a week earlier, when we come to know that in the winter of 1988, Maciej Berbeka and his team were 3 km to the summit of K2 from their base. And they had barely reached the half point to the summit in the last 2 months. When his teammate Alex suggests to rather climb the Broad Peak instead, he is unable to say no. But their camp is soon hit by a storm. Maciej asks Alec if he is still game for the Broad Peak. But Alec tells him to ask Andre. Next morning, when Andre hears more bad news about the storm damaging their base, Maciej tells Andre they will not be able to climb K2, how they have been trying it for the last 2 months, and asks Andre for his permission to climb Broad Peak instead. But Andre reminds him it's dangerous up there, and he would rather not lose him. Maciej pleads him, telling him he knows where to stop. Andre relents but tells him the team would not understand the decision. Outside, the team fights over the decision, and everyone decides to stick with the expedition goal and wait for the storm to bleed out before trying summit to K2. However, Maciej and Alec head on out for the Broad Peak. As they slowly make their way to the Camp 1 on the first day, their team reminds them over the radio they will be reaching 7,000 meters tomorrow if they keep the same pace. The next day Maciej struggles to keep the pace, and at one time even loses his grip on the mountain and falling into a ditch. Andre informs him that the weather is refusing to subside and relent, and has in fact turned for the worse, reminding him his promise to return if he is not up for it. Maciej asks him for one more day, and asks him to call the next morning. However, as the wind blows outside, Maciej is unable to sleep and sees Alec too is struggling to breathe, as he hallucinates about his wife, Eva, not understanding his decision to go for these expeditions, leaving his wife and children behind. The next morning, the weather surprisingly improves and Maciej and Alec decide to push for the summit. Reaching a few hundred meters from the summit, they find the storm last night has left a wide ditch in front of them. Maciej decides to go around it. However, Alec warns him the storm is right on top of them now, and asks him, maybe they should turn back, before it gets worse ahead. Maciej hands him his radio and asks him to find out more about the weather from the team, telling him he will see him ahead. Alec calls in and finds out it's 2 in the afternoon. The summit is now only 4 to 5 hours away from their spot. He is advised to evaluate the situation before proceeding ahead. But Alec is worried and tells him it's getting dangerous now, and if they should return. Andre asks for Maciej, as the signals get weak and the communication is lost. When the signals come back, Alec hears his team advising him not to split up, and work together, as there is only one radio. Somewhere over him, Maciej manages to climb up the icy jut, and waits for Alec. But seeing nothing, he pulls his rope and finds the radio at the end of it. He looks down and sees Alec making his way up. As the climb continues, after 3 hours of non-stop, slow climb, we see Maciej reaching an abandoned camp, known as Death Zone, in the middle of a blizzard. Time is 5:30 in the evening. It's now been 3.5 hours since they last talked to their team. As the team at the base camp begins to get worried, we see Maciej still climbing up, ridden with exhaustion, struggling to breathe and completely covered with hardened ice. It's now been more than 4 hours since their last communication. When he reaches a spot he calls in, to the relief of the team. The team begins to celebrate as he informs them there is nothing above him now, and that he has reached the summit. Unable to descend, Maciej and Alec are airlifted from the base camp and taken to Islamabad. Maciej returns to Poland as a Polish hero, where he receives medals and fame, celebrated as the first man to climb the Broad Peak, an 8,000er in the winter. 3 months later, Maciej learns, from an article by his climbing partner Alec in a magazine, that he did not actually reach the summit of Broad Peak, but a lower point called the Rocky Summit, 17 meters short of the true summit. Feeling betrayed, he drives to face Andre, and confronts him for lying to him, about reaching the summit. Andre tells him he did not doubt him that day. Besides, it may have saved his life. However, he accuses him for using him to fund his other expeditions. Meanwhile, he also faces criticism from the media and the public, who question his achievement. His son too faces questions at school about his climbing being fake. He quits climbing and settles into a family life, promising his wife to never go on another expedition with the team again, but he remains haunted by his unfinished climb. 24 years later, in June 2012, we see Maciej has long forgotten about his past and has long since settled into a happy life with his family. One day, while on his way back home from a picnic on the beach, he gets a call from Wieliki, another famous Polish climber, dropping him a message and asking him to call back. Not hearing from him, Wieliki comes to his house and invites him to join him on a new expedition to Broad Peak. Wieliki tells him he deserves to complete his dream, offering him this time it will be different. They are going in with a younger team and better equipments. However, Maciej refuses, telling him he deserves to be with his family now. Later in the night, he tells his wife why Wieliki was here and that he has refused to join him. Over the next few days, Maciej mulls over his decision and realizes it is a mistake not to go. He finally informs his wife in a party that he plans to go with Wieliki on his next expedition, which does not surprise his wife, who tells him she knew he was going. Later in the night, Eva wants his promise that he will not descend the summit if he does not feel he is up for it. She begs him to promise her, and Wieliki promises her he won't. Maciej joins the team, which consists of Wieliki, Bielecki, Kowalski, and Malik. They travel to the Karakoram and begin their ascent. Back on the rocky summit once more, on their summit push, Wieliki warns the team over the radio that they are behind schedule. If they push ahead, it will be dark when they descend. He asks them to turn back and try again some other time. However, Maciej refuses to turn back now, as it would mean he came back for nothing. He asks others to take a call for themselves. Wieliki calls back, but others decide to join Maciej on his climb and continue to the true summit, despite the risks. They succeed in reaching the top of Broad Peak, becoming the first Polish climbers to do so. Maciej finally fulfills his lifelong goal and enjoys the view from the peak, as he informs Wieliki of his summit over the radio. The movie ends with a tragic twist, as it reveals that Maciej and Kowalski died on the descent from Broad Peak, due to exhaustion and exposure. The movie pays tribute to their courage and dedication. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell for more of these videos in future. Thanks for watching.